team was ranked 9th or maybe even 11th in the world at that time. And when I really spent some time with my wife and talked to her about it and spent some time with the guys, I thought for sure, let's do this. We got, my wife was very supportive. It was basically a year and a half to go before the Olympics, so I thought it would be a nice short time frame to try to get this done. It actually been 20 years since 1988, since the USA men's team had been on the podium. And it seemed like a kind of a far-fetched goal maybe for them at that time, but slowly but surely they kind of bought into the goal. And slowly but surely we started to build this team. We tried to get back to the fundamentals of just doing the simple things well. Playing good defense, making good passes, using your legs properly, good technique, good body position in the water, just being smart with good habits. And I think as we went forward, these things started to pay off. Let's go next slide. It's one of my favorite poems, and I think that for whatever we do in life, habits are a big part of what makes us or breaks us. And this, you can read it with me, but it says, the beginning of every habit is like an invisible thread. Every time you repeat the act, you strengthen the strand. You add to it another filament with each repetition until it becomes a great cable and binds you irrevocably to each and every thought and act. First you make your habits, and then they make you. Your thoughts lead to your purpose always manifests into action. Your actions form your habits, and your habits determine your character, and your character fixes your destiny. Your habits are either your best of servants or your worst of masters. And we tried to really get back, and one thing I can tell you as a guy who was 50 years old in 2008, I left Beijing knowing that I had grown and I had been taught a lot of really important lessons from this team too. It was really powerful to be a part of it. It was an amazing journey, and it taught me a lot about my own life too. One of the things we did is we took these guys down to do a training, a half-day team building exercise with the Navy SEALs down in Coronado. And we did this in December. We had 23 guys on the team that day. And they lined us up arm in arm. The water was 52 degrees. They marched us out into the water. And I say we, but the guy who was in charge told me, Coach, you probably should just stand on the berm and watch this, and I'm glad I did. They went out in and out of the water. They were down to science as far as when you're going to get hypothermia, so they brought these guys to the edge over and over again, and they drug them through the sand and did all kinds of fun things with them. Here's the guys having a good time, enjoying it. They basically said, look, if you break arms, if you break the chain, I'm going to ramp this up and I'm going to make it so miserable on you guys, you're going to hate life. They were already hating life, so they knew they didn't want to do that. Let's go next one. Certainly one of the things that I've learned through water polo, and I think is a great lesson for all of you here that have played the game, a great lesson for all of us is staying in the moment. This is a game that's played very quickly, and if you get lost in what happened one play ago or 2 plays ago, or if you start thinking too much about what maybe will happen 3 or 4 plays from now, you're locked in. You're out of the game. So staying in the moment is really critical, really important. When we left this Navy SEALs exercise after 4 or 5 hours, whatever it was, the guys all said to a team that it was one of the best team building things they ever did, but they all said also, please don't make us do that again. And when we did our little debriefing, these are the things that they said they learned or they took away from the day. We got to stick together and we got to pay attention to detail. And if we do those things, we're going to be more successful. And even as we went through to the Olympics, those were themes that we kind of hit on as we got into the Olympics and had some more meetings. Stick together, pay attention to detail. As you saw in the video, we took these guys the steps of Lincoln Memorial, and we had a little chat, and you know, it was interesting because these guys, they didn't really know me that well. They knew who I was, but as I was getting to know them, you know, sitting them down on the steps in Lincoln Memorial, looking out over the plaza, and talking to them about what it meant for me to be in the Olympics, what it meant for me to represent our country, and really what it meant to be an American. I have some quotes from Lincoln, and thought I did a pretty good job, and the guys were looking at me just with blank stares. And this lady came up who was sitting behind with her kids, and she came up and said, you know, tears in her eyes, said, "Coach, that was really good." And I said, "Oh, glad it affected you that way." But as the guy said, it was something that struck home a little bit. And I think as we are part of a team, realizing that it is something bigger than us, it's something that we all long to have in our lives. To be a part of a team, to be a part of a group that has that same goal. It's bigger than us, and that has real meaning, I think, as we go forward. As we went through the year, we did some fun things, you know, as we're training hard, but we also got away, went up to Colorado Springs, we slept in teepees, which the guys really liked. We did some whitewater rafting, we did some hiking, put on their respect, trust, love, belief. I think those are sometimes the intangibles that are hard to measure, but are so important as you go forward with a team. And as those things start to come together, and you get that belief that everybody's on the same page, and that we can do this, we can get back to the podium, and there's mutual love and respect and trust for your teammates, that's that chemistry that Wolf talked about that is hard to beat. Even if you don't have the talent of some of the other teams, you still have a chance. Because you're a better team. And slowly but surely we started to become a team. Opening ceremony is Beijing. You guys might recognize this guy, Kobe Bryant. In 1984, it was kind of interesting. We kind of hung out a little bit by this one basketball guy named Michael Jordan. And our goalie, Craig Wilson, probably got on TV 10 times in opening ceremonies. So part of my job as a coach, I figured, was to help these guys, you know, in Beijing, give a little recognition, help the awareness of water polo. So we decided we'd hang out by the basketball guys and march in as much as we could right next to these guys, so that maybe they'd say, hey, there's a water polo guy right next to Kobe or whatever. So we're marching. They basically put us in one stadium. It was about half a mile, maybe 3/4 mile away from the bird's nest. And one by one, the countries marched out. And as you marched out, you had to go through this corridor, which was basically just roped off. And all the volunteers, a lot of Chinese people that couldn't get into opening ceremonies were there. And as we came out, I found myself right next to Kobe. And instead of chanting USA, 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 the crowd was chanting Kobe, Kobe, Kobe. And, you know, he's obviously a big smile, enjoying the show. And at one point, this guy, big Chinese guy from the crowd, starts yelling, "I love you, Kobe, I love you, Kobe." And he's running right at Kobe, and he kind of hops over the rope fence. He's running right at him. So I'm going to take charge here. So I stepped in front of the guy, boom, little forearm, knocked the guy down. And all of a sudden, Kobe's like my best friend. Awesome, coach. And he's like, well, tell me more about water polo. So we start walking on again, and right away the crowd starts up again. Kobe, 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 and going crazy. And he's looking at me and he's talking to me now like we've known each other forever. And he goes, God, I don't know what this is all about. This is crazy. And I look at him and he's got this huge diamond stud earring. It must have been like 3 carats. I go, Kobe, it might be your earring. He goes, really? So he takes it off and he gives it to me. I go, whoa, my wife's going to like that. So that was opening ceremony. It's kind of fun. It was, one of the things in the bird's nest, it was a stadium built specifically for the Olympics. They had no escalators. They had no air moving through there. It had to be about 110 degrees on the floor, maybe warmer on the floor of the stadium. When we marched in there, in fact, these were the shirts we wore, but everybody's shirt was soaking wet. I had puddles in my shoes. It was so hot. It was incredible. Let's go next slide here. There's, for those that play, there's a pretty good picture of what you want to see with your team when you talk about defense. The goalie's taking his spot. We've got two defenders that are taking their sides, and somebody chasing after the guy with the ball. And for us in Beijing, this was one of the reasons that we had great success, because our team played great defense. And up to the final, we averaged giving up about 6 goals a game. So I think it's also important as you go forward that you learn to celebrate the successes, even if they're small. And on our ramp up to Beijing, we tried to really celebrate when we did something good. Even if we didn't win a game, we fixed parts of the game that we did well. 6-on-5, 5-on-6, and try to celebrate those successes. Because it's really important in building that belief and building that trust within the team. Let's go next slide. And as we've talked about, you're not going to win every game. In the early round, we lost to Serbia, and you've got to learn to stick together during those tough times. The mark of a great team is to be able to be strong together as a team when you're losing or when you've lost, and be able to bounce back and come back the next day and do the job the next day. So this was our journey to the podium, back to the podium in 2008. Team was ranked 9th. We beat China. We upset Italy, upset Croatia, upset Germany. And then in the semifinal game, and this is worth a quick little story. In February 2008, we went over to Serbia. And we played Serbia for 10 days straight. We knew that it was one of the teams that we were going to win a medal and get back to the podium that we had to beat. The first night we were there, they beat us 17-3. The second night it was like 16-4. And they crushed us every night. The last night we were there, they beat us, I think, 14-6, but half their guys came straight from happy hour. So it was like, okay, you guys beat us. You beat us good. So we get to the Olympic semifinal, and we have never beaten Serbia. And it was one of those games where things just went right. And at one point even, things were going so good that in the middle of the third quarter, I think we went up by 3 or 4 goals. And you saw some pictures in that video. I got pretty excited and threw up my arms. My wedding ring came flying off. And it kind of was like slow motion. It was in the middle of the game, but my wedding ring's like spinning around. And I'm looking on this deck that I'm standing on, and it's got slits where there's a gutter, and who knows in China where that gutter goes. And it was slow motion where I kind of looked at my wife, and I kind of looked at her ring going, it's probably not going to be good, but the ring came down, and if you had all these slats, it probably bounced 5 times on the different slats. It came to rest right on one of the slats. I bent over and picked it up and said, I don't even need to coach. I think we're good. We beat Serbia 10-5. Got back to the gold medal game against Hungary, and lost 14-10 against Hungary. Our defense kind of fell apart a little bit, and I take some of the blame for that, really, because I think that we had ingrained in these guys' minds so much, let's get back to the podium. And when we beat Serbia, we were back on the podium. And we kind of lost the edge a little bit of what our goal was all about. And we didn't come to play with the same level of intensity, the same level of defense. So in Beijing, we climbed the wall. We got back on the podium. And we reached our goal, really. Pan Am's last week, this is our goalie, Mary Moses. We secured our Olympic berth for 2012. And we're working real hard to try to make that Olympic gold medal come true. And I just want to take a quick moment to mention Dr. Marcus Elliott here and Adam from P3, because our team started to work with them as a team really only about 9 weeks ago. And I'm seeing just some incredible results in the water. It's really translating nicely to more power, more strength. I had individual meetings with the guys before we left for Pan Am's and to a T, every one of them thought that what we're doing with the guys at P3 is a huge, huge part of us reaching that gold medal. So for those of you that don't know what they're doing there, check it out. They've got a great program. It's really unique. Marcus has put a lot of time and energy into the research he's doing there. It's not only about the exercise, but it's about the order of the exercises and the coupling of the exercises together. And it's really powerful. It's good stuff. I think it's going to be one of the factors that's going to help us win a gold medal as we go forward next year.